joined now by Tania Constable, who's the CEO of the Minerals Council of Australia. Thanks for joining us, Tania. Look, when you think about the mineral exports of Australia, and I've been filming a documentary on the net zero challenge, the energy challenge for Australia over recent months. So it'll be airing in a couple of weeks. But I've been up and looked at the Upper Hunter and the coal exports out of Newcastle. You know, billions of dollars, millions of tonnes. If we go net zero globally, that industry is going to be smashed, right?
Well, the Minerals Council of Australia has just recently announced that we will move to net zero, an ambition of net zero emissions by 2050. And the reason we've done that is we've now done the work across the whole of the industry, including the coal industry. And each of the companies that are participating in the Minerals Council have done the work. And as a whole, we have confidence that we can reach an ambition of net zero emissions by 2050, Chris.
Yeah, but who can reach it? The world, Australia, or your industry in its own consumption?
Well, every single part of industry, every government across the world have to do their bit to get to net zero emissions by 2050. The Minerals Council members, the mining industry across Australia, have looked at what our pathway needs to look like to achieve net zero emissions by 2050. It's not a one size fits all. Every company will look at what their particular sector needs. In the coal industry, it's carbon capture and storage. Across the whole industry, there's a whole range of issues from low emission electricity to energy efficiency, changing the mine sites in total, using better equipment at scale with lower emissions. So they're the sorts of things that the industry needs to do. So our industry will play its part, along with every other industry at a global level, to reduce emissions to get to that big goal of net zero emissions by 2050.
But hang on a second. I mean, you can't be a massive coal exporter and get to net zero. That just can't happen. I mean, I know the coal exporting companies, the port operators at Newcastle, they say they're using all renewable energy, but they're exporting 165 million tonnes of coal. So are you saying that the world can get to net zero by 2050? Because the International Energy Agency says that simply cannot be done on current technology.
Every industry, every government around the world has to work together to get to net zero emissions by 2050. Our industry are going to play our part in meeting that ambition of net zero by 2050. And the way that we will do that is try and make sure across every part of our industry that we're getting to a stage where we can reduce emissions as much as possible to get to that net zero across the whole industry.
But
now, does that mean carbon capture and storage is their pathway?
Well, it's not happening so far. And, you know, coal exports are going through the roof and the price is high. Everybody wants it. I mean, are you actually prepared to sacrifice the coal export industry to get to net zero? Because that's what it will take, according to all the advice of the experts.
Well, technology is the pathway. Technology has been proven time and time again at every stage of industrialisation, and we're moving into a new stage to reduce smash emissions, using your language, as well as making sure that we continue to be an effective, competitive, profitable industry in Australia. And each of the sectors have their pathway. The coal industry has its pathway of carbon capture and storage. It has its pathway in energy efficiency. So there's a range of areas.
The coal industry's pathway to net zero is to shut itself down. That's what I'm saying, and that's what reality tells us. Just to go on to nuclear, do you see an expansion of the Australian nuclear uranium export industry? And what about a domestic nuclear industry?
Well, we're really excited to put out our latest report on small modular reactors, Chris. This particular particular technology sits alongside other parts of Australia's energy mix. It will ensure reliable, affordable energy supplies, and Australia really does need a portfolio approach for that to happen. If we look at Europe, it shows that all types of energy sources are required. And most other developed countries have nuclear as part of their energy portfolios. So we see this as an important step forward for Australia to have a debate about nuclear in Australia. We've provided information, a report that shows that small modular reactors can be very effective in the Australian context. And in fact, by the end of this decade, we'll see more and more of them being rolled out around the world. And we think that it's time for Australia to engage, and so does most of the population, with the latest news poll saying about 66% of Australians want a discussion on nuclear energy. That's great for Australia.
Yeah, it's a fascinating debate. Thanks for joining us, Tania. I appreciate it.
Thanks very much for having me, Chris.
Tania Constable there from the Minerals Council of Australia. She talks about those small modular reactors. That's something we look at very carefully when we consider all these issues in that upcoming documentary, Going Nuclear, the Clean Energy Debate. It'll air at 8 p.m. on Monday, October the 25th here on Sky News. I'll look at the reliance on coal and gas and how you could replace it, and nuclear always presents itself as the only practical answer at this stage.